Hey Orlando, Grease Fighter here to tell you about what happens when you put used cooking oil down the drain. It gets in your sanitary sewer and causes backups and blockages, and that's bad. But here's what you can do. Put it in a shatterproof container and then bring it to the City of Orlando Community Center nearest you. And don't forget while you're there, pick up your Grease Fighter jug, take it home, and continue to be a hero.
Hello, I'm Corporal Kevlon Kirkpatrick. I'd like to go over one of the free services we provide at the Orlando Police Department, a residential security survey. Since we cannot be everywhere all the time, I'm going to provide you with an abundance of options to consider to better safeguard your home. One of the first challenges we see are address numbers. Address numbers should be visible from the street. Bushes and/or shrubs should be no higher than 2 feet. This fence, although provides lots of natural visibility, it would be better aided by shrubs being lower than the fence, again, 2 feet in height. All fences and/or gates should be
Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the April 8th workshop of the Orlando City Council. Today we're going to have some fun workshop topics. We're going to get an update on Project DTO and our efforts to support the downtown's nighttime economy. Under the leadership of Thomas Chapman, our Project DTO initiative has had incredible growth in our downtown over the last, 5 years now. Has it been that long already? And I want to invite Thomas to update us on Project DTO and the projects associated with that and some of the other things happening in our downtown.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm a little nervous, help me out here. So as Mayor said, this morning's workshop will take a look into two subject matters. I will present a comprehensive and fairly in-depth status on the implementation of our DT Outlook, which of course is our CRA redevelopment area plan that resulted from the Project DTO visioning process in 2015. But prior to that, David Barilla, our Assistant Director, and Dominique Greco, our Nighttime Economy Project Manager, will present an overview of the new strategies related to our nighttime economy. You may recall that in the early days of refocusing our efforts on the nighttime economy, David was our lead, our point, and led that process for a couple of years until we ultimately hired a nighttime economy manager. So David will provide some background and context, and then yield to Dominique. David.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for the time this morning. So, as you may recall, the last time we had the opportunity to speak about the nighttime economy in this type of forum, it was in November of 2016. And that was kind of at the culmination of an effort, which at that time was kind of termed the Nightclub Task Force. You established us in 2015, and that initially we were charged with identifying the best way to approach after-hours nightclubs in downtown. We had one that was established kind of out of the blue, and we wanted to take a step back and figure out the best way to address them. But early on in that effort, we really identified that the nighttime economy was important. It was brought up numerous times in Project DTO in how to make downtown more diverse, make it more welcoming to people of all demographics, and having it be a business-friendly climate. So we took a step back and said we want to use this opportunity to fulfill components of Project DTO, get the answers about the after-hours kind of bar and the best way to handle that, but also be a front runner and establish some best practices in the nighttime economy. So what we wound up doing was working with a group. This group was known as the Responsible Hospitality Institute. As you may recall, they are to some extent established and maybe coined the phrase nighttime economy, which we use rather frequently now. They had worked with 70 other cities throughout the world, some of which we know here locally, New York, DC, and Philadelphia, and really kind of help us learn from others, but also establishing some leading items and the best practices as we moved this initiative forward. So what we started was the Hospitality Zone Assessment, or became known as a Hospitality Zone Assessment, where we comprehensively looked at not only the nighttime economy in downtown, but throughout our city, where we looked at various Main Street districts and how that was becoming a new phenomenon that we wanted to support and really get right. So early on in that process, we really wanted to try and understand and identify the value of the nighttime economy. So through conversations and research, it started to uncover itself, really, where we noticed that people are seeking urban lifestyles. And they're seeking these lifestyles not to a large extent by the amenities that urban areas ultimately create and offer. And it's a different way to live that people are seeking. We're having a central city residential boom, as we all know. We continue to see new high-rise towers come into downtown, get developed, and ultimately get leased up, which is tremendous for our economy. And then from an economic development standpoint, businesses are actually seeking areas and seeking places that have active nighttime economies and places for their employees to socialize. I was in a meeting actually on Friday afternoon with Unikey. Unikey is a name that you probably recognize. Unikey was one of the early contestants on the Shark Tank. They're based right here out of downtown Orlando. And just in conversation with them, the president and CEO just offered up in part of the conversation that he actually doesn't use recruiters because he doesn't need them in downtown. He reallocates that recruitment budget to paying the additional dollars that it takes to be in downtown, but that's because the amenities that downtown offers really cater to his demographic of his employees, and he needs that to get the highest and best talent. Kind of speaks to that. And then the other item, which we're right around the corner from now, is obviously the University of Central Florida's downtown campus and Valencia's downtown campus, where we saw 7,700 students kind of on the horizon, and which will be here in just a matter of days. So we focused on three things in that study. We focused on assuring safety, we focused on enhancing vibrancy, and then planning for people. We had 30 meetings throughout that process. We had 7 night tours to put our hands and eyes on things, 113 stakeholders involved, 45 city staff members, and 80 companies participated. And what that culminated in was a report with a host of identified items and recommendations, but 2 kind of top-line initiatives to really get us started out on a firm foundation as we took on the nighttime economy and looked to have it flourish and govern it appropriately in the years to come. So the first of which was creating a dedicated nighttime manager position. This person would be a liaison to all nighttime economy businesses and coordinate city resources effectively. That is Dominique Greco, who will be up here shortly. The second of which is the Nighttime Economy Committee, or was to establish the Nighttime Economy Committee. So in these both initiatives, we wound up kind of becoming one of the leaders in the nighttime economy. When we created both of these, we were only the 4th city in the United States to take on an active role in managing the nighttime economy in this fashion, and there was 9 others in the world at that point in time. That has rapidly increased since then, and we are continually looked to as one of the leaders in this space. So the committee, as you see before you, is really made up of half city employees and half of the public sector or private sector. And the goal of the Nighttime Economy Committee is to use a robust and diverse group of individuals to determine feasible solutions and prioritize and implement strategies that really cater to the nighttime economy. So right now we're in the process of moving to an action team format with the Nighttime Economy Committee, which looks at taking this larger group of individuals and having them break out into smaller working groups, which we're coining action teams, which was actually a recommendation of the Hospitality Zone Assessment. And that group of people would really take various initiatives under their wing and make sure that they are implemented in an appropriate and timely fashion. So as we continue to move forward in that process, I will now turn it over to Dominique to talk us a little bit through, oh, and here's a picture of our committee members. Don't want to forget that. You can see Thomas standing there right in the middle. So Dominique will talk you through the action teams.
Thank you, David. Dominique?
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Thanks for your time this morning. Like David said, I'm going to go through some priority projects that have come out of the Nighttime Economy Committee that were originally called out in that Hospitality Zone Assessment that we've been referring to, that RHI went through with the City of Orlando in 2016. So we have 5 priority projects that we're currently working on, and this first one, I think personally the most exciting, and also kind of where we saw the value or the feasibility to put these action teams together that David was talking about. So on the Nighttime Economy Committee, you have half senior staff members from the city and half stakeholders from the community. And within that group of 30 people, we have established working teams, action teams that we call them, to work on projects and actually move them through the process. So one of the first projects, and the rendering that you're looking at here, is our rideshare hubs, to go live May 3rd, so any day now. This has been in the works for about 18 months, and the purpose of the rideshare hubs is to further support the infamous pull versus push that we've all heard so much about, that we struggle with a little bit in downtown Orlando. So as you know, at 2 a.m. we see an influx of people exiting downtown and taking over Orange Avenue, and that road is being closed to accommodate that exiting. So from the HCA as well as the DTO Outlook, there was a lot of justification to figure out a solution that would be able to streamline this process. So these rideshare hubs there's going to be 2 of them in proximity to the Central Business District, which is Orange Ave from about South Street to Washington, within 1 to 2 blocks from there. And we are working with Uber and Lyft, the TNCs, to actually build the software that Uber and Lyft utilize to be able to call your Uber, and instead of calling your Uber right to you on Orange Ave, where we know an Uber wouldn't be able to get to at that time, it will direct you to the rideshare hub, it will direct your driver to the rideshare hub, and we will have a transportation management company there staffing the entire thing, as well as setting up and breaking down, and it will actually circulate kind of like an airport style. So that group, oh, and in addition to that, we will have dedicated private security at these locations, as well as dedicated cleaning efforts, and then we'll also be hoping to amenitize both of these hubs with additional food services and public restrooms. This action team was and has been a really great effort between planning, transportation engineering, transportation, OPD, and Office of Communication, and it's honestly been a great project to work on. We will start that pilot, like I said, on May 3rd, and it will run for approximately 6 months on the weekends, Friday and Saturday nights, from midnight to 3 a.m. Secondly, something that is in the works is the process of finding a company that will actually measure our nighttime economy in a specialized fashion. So we've been looking at a lot of larger cities, some of which David mentioned, New York City and London, that have produced these very robust zone or hospitality assessments from an economic standpoint, as well as some behavioral studies in there. So we are looking at London, New York City, Sydney, Edmonton, Berlin, Amsterdam, the capital city of Lithuania. These are all cities that have actually, just in the last 3 or 4 years, some even more recently, have measured their economic impact from their nighttime economy. And everyone, of course, is doing it a little bit different to kind of figure out what's a bar, what's a club, what's theater, what's nightlife, what's restaurant, and where that money is coming from. So that's something that we look forward to putting a scope together for, and finding the right consultant to come in and measure, again, some economic measurements that we'd like to have here, as well as some behavioral patterns of our nighttime economy. These are the cities that we're looking at for a separate case study, which is special event management. So special event management, the goal here is to do the research and make a staff recommendation that captures really what other cities are seeing success in in terms of permitting and promoting and just simply catering to special events. As you know, in downtown Orlando, we have over 1,200 special events just in downtown alone, and that doesn't, of course, include the rest of the city. So when you talk in terms of 18As, downtown Orlando does more than 50% of our 18A permits on any given year that we've looked at over the past few years. And we continue to look at these case study cities, and you'll see we have some small local cities that we're looking at, as well as larger, more established, much bigger cities, and seeing best practices on how they permit and streamline their special event management office. So with that, keeping the goals in mind that we want to help event producers with the permitting process, we want to encourage them to do community outreach, to bring in the neighborhoods and bring in the community to their special events, so we have less of that, plop a special event right here, and more of let's all get around this special event and make it something that the city or downtown or both can be really proud of. Of course, logistics and OPD staffing, anything to do with safety. This is things that we're seeing are coming out of a dedicated office or unit or department in these various other cities, and perhaps something that we might be looking to move towards in the future. That action team includes OPD, parks, economic development, legal, and the mayor's office, as well as, of course, DDB. These are also a list of other cities that we have seen that have a dedicated special events office. But if I go back, these are the cities that we'll be looking to get more in depth to and produce a research report. That brings us to the ambassador program. So earlier this year, we were joined by a new operations manager for our downtown ambassador program, Mr. Mark Randini. He's here today. We quickly, staff, us as the client, the community, have really embraced Mark's management style and are really happy to have him here. You're looking at a picture of their office over at Centroplex 1, and these are a couple of action stations that Mark put together quickly after coming on board that really speak to the staff as people and speak to the staff as community leaders that are out in downtown, building a brand for us, continuing to offer excellent service. And it's as you can imagine, a sensitive work, and also can be difficult work. So this wall that you're looking at here is actually something Mark put together that now block by block our contractor, as you'll remember, the company that we are paying to run our ambassador program, is actually adopting in several of their other offices. And this is a look at some celebrities that have experienced homelessness in their life. And it's just a reminder as the staff is getting dressed for the day and during their pre-shift to tie that back to a more humanized approach. And then on the bottom right, you'll see an events calendar that is updated weekly. As you know, the ambassadors are staffing and allocation is very specific to our downtown events. So we want to, of course, be prioritizing large-scale events so that we make sure we have a presence there to deal with crowds and to deal with more people that might have more questions at that time. And then ambassadors continue to take on special projects for DDB-CRA, and one of which, if you remember, the Give Smart campaign. So they are doing grassroots outreach for that and continue to take on special projects as needed for the DDB, where they can actually go out and touch these businesses and or residents and or whatever user group that we're talking about. This action team continues, because this will be a continued effort, as our pilot for this program is two years with a third-year extension, as you remember. And this action team includes venues, homelessness and social services, OPD, legal, and CAO's office. And then I wanted to add to that, because I've had some questions about ambassadors and kind of their day-to-day. So when they come in, Mark or a team lead will actually go through every single day, 2 times a day, a shift meeting, which includes a uniform check, an equipment log, physical warm-ups, and the shift brief, which includes weather, today's special events, incidences over the last 3 days, so that everyone's staying abreast to any incidents that's happened over the last 3 days, and then discussion and feedback from staff. And most importantly, zone assignments. So you'll see here 2 examples of our walking zones that ambassadors actually adhere to. So as our map lays out right now, we have 5 walking zones that look similar to this. And at the end of a shift, there's 2 shifts per day, anybody's assigned walking path will light up green, just like this, on their smart system, which is GPS tracked and tracing all of their movement throughout the day. So we can make sure that every corner and every area that we've assigned is being touched, and we can actually see how long they were there, how many times they circulated. So in the software, which is not visual here, you can actually see their walk path throughout the whole day. So that really allows for Mark to be strategic in his planning. And then in addition to these 5 zones that we have, which include the Central Business District and Thornton Park and Lake Eola, there are 3 special deployment zones, including North Quarter and Camping World Stadium area, that get circulated twice a day or additionally as needed for special events. And this action team is planning, code enforcement, legal, and mayor's office. Mobile food vending. So mobile food vending is a component that we hope and are looking to add that will work in conjunction with our rideshare hub pilot. Like I talked about, we want to create some of a breadcrumb effect, again going back to that push versus pull, that attracts people to these transportation hubs for not only their transportation needs, but also to use of the restroom or some food vending, because that's what we find people want at that late night hour. So working with planning closely to put together some proposed changes to 5427 and looking to use on-street parking meters for mobile food vending in pre-specified locations, not of course all parking. So planning is prepared to take that to council for you all on April 22nd. And that's been an action team of planning, code enforcement, legal, and mayor's office. And then last but not least, this is a really interesting slide. We've been approached by, like David said, we've been kind of leading out on this effort of nighttime economy management, not only in the US, but also some work internationally. We have been reached out to by all of these cities that you're seeing here who are looking to establish their own nighttime economy program. A couple already have it and are looking to do an exchange of sorts of information and best practices, because this is such a new tactic, a new local government tactic. So I've worked with Frank and Heather on putting together a bit of a field trip, if you will. So we're looking to start with Denver and Fort Collins, Colorado, who have a real desire to have a nighttime economy program and have quite a bit of an already established nighttime economy, just like we did here, and how can they put that in place to best bring together all of the departments and all of the crossover that it takes to really satisfy what they're trying to fix, if you will. And then some contributing efforts here. These are projects that are currently in place that Nighttime Economy Committee, as well as myself, continue to advise on in some form or the other. I just listed these here for you. Public restrooms, sustainability efforts via Chris Castro and that department, alcohol distance separation, the sidewalk experience, which really ties into just transportation in downtown Orlando and walkability, downtown Orlando night tours, which I've been offered and been asked to put together for some of our senior staff. So I'm looking forward to doing that, because I think it's great that everybody agrees that they want to see it firsthand, so that as we have these conversations, we can really tie back to the reality of what's going on in our backyard here. Parking efforts including parking rebranding, as well as some promotional efforts that have to do with where to park, how to park, best way to park in downtown. The information exchange field trips that I spoke about, our downtown bollards, We've Got You Covered, which is again a parking campaign, business troubleshooting and mediation, that's constant, just something for me. DTO signature events, I continue to be a part of the work that happens on our side with Immerse and Come Out with Pride and Florida Music Festival and whatnot, and then of course the Nighttime Economy Management Movement spokesperson. So I appreciate the opportunity for the travel that I've had the opportunity to take over the last couple of years and speak to these cities that are ready to go, and some have come on board since then, including New York City and Washington, D.C. Thomas and I were just with all of the night managers in the country about 2 months ago in Philadelphia, and it was just a really, really great turnout and really great to see some of these big cities being represented and looking to us for best practices. So, yes, Commissioner.
Commissioner Hill.
I just have a question. Thanks for all the work you're doing. I will respond on that a little bit later. Yes. But I did have with the field trips, are they paying for you all to come and speak to them, or are we using our resources
all the travel I've
to go
taken
to them?
has been paid for. if and when they'd like to come here, that would be on their own.
I was more concerned about the field trips that you're possibly going to. Usually when we're looking for best practices, we pay to go see what best practices are. I just want to make sure that they're coming to see us because of what we're doing here versus us going to show them what we're doing and paying.
Yeah, and I think that's what
I
Dominique was
apologize
trying to
for
say.
interrupting the
The
workshop.
discussions that's been happening between Dominique and the mayor's office are exactly that. In fact, two of the cities have indicated a willingness and a desire to send their delegations to us, and what we're trying to do is coordinate that, maybe bring in several of the cities at one time versus just one-off trips. But again, as she said, because, and as David pointed out, because we got out ahead of this phenomena in the national and international sense, we were the 5th city in America and the 9th in the world to really focus on this, we'll look to as a leader in the industry. And so everybody's looking for what's happening, how are you doing it, what results are you getting, and that sort of thing. So there are a lot of questions, a lot of interest. And again, we're trying to coordinate those cities to come here at one time, sort of have a summit, if you will, so that we don't do it in one-off situations. All right. And so with that, I'd like to move now into the next part of the presentation, which of course is Project DTO, as I indicated earlier, giving a status update on the DT Outlook. You've seen this quote before. It says, chart the path to creating the highest quality urban environment in the nation here in downtown Atlanta. And of course, that was a quote by Mayor Dyer, which was a directive presented in April of 2014, almost precisely 5 years ago this week, as we kicked off the Project DTO visioning process. We had some 97 volunteers that worked for more than a year envisioning the downtown of the future that they aspire to. And of course, during that time, more than 6,000 Central Floridians made substantial contributions through online surveys, a series of DTO events, and social media engagements. Out of that, of course, came the DT Outlook with its 10 pivotal vision themes and that power the visions for us moving forward over the next 10 years. Those 10 vision themes are, the task force said we wanted to be an awesome outdoor city with highly connected neighborhoods and districts, offering the best education in the state of Florida, being a great place to do business, being a very supportive creator culture, featuring having an iconic visual identity, providing stellar music, art, sports, and entertainment, being a community that takes care of its own, as well as a community that celebrates our diverse culture and heritage. And finally, we wanted to be a part of a city built for the future. So how are we doing on those? And of course, as a result, on May 4th, 2015, you approved that vision as the DT Outlook, which is of course our redevelopment area plan. So let's take them one by one. DT Outdoors, an awesome outdoor city. Says that we want to provide more green spaces for recreation and events, create more active blocks, having downtown make green or healthy decisions on transportation choices, being a more walkable and bikeable environment, and providing more places for people to socialize and connect. And right out of the chute, rather than adding a green space, we actually were in danger of losing a very popular amenity called Constitution Green. Most people didn't realize it, but Constitution Green was privately owned and had been leased to the city and was being used as a passive park, a very beautiful passive park. But with the boom in residential development that was going on in downtown and continues in downtown around the country, downtowns around the country, a developer had seen the site and had made an offer to the owners of the property to purchase the site and develop multifamily housing there. Of course, the city and the CRA were able to negotiate with the owners and to successfully secure that Constitution Green by purchasing it and in keeping that really popular green space in our repertoire of open spaces in downtown. Since then, of course, we've added a dog run and continue to add amenities to that. Orange and Robinson Park, realizing that green spaces act as a catalyst and they magnetize people and become community connectors. The city has begun the process to transform the corner of Orange and Robinson into a modern public gathering space. An RFP was issued in June of last year, and you may recall that you approved the rankings in October of last year. At this time, staff is currently working on a design and procurement and a third-party management plan with the #1 chosen respondent to that RFP. Dedicated bike paths. There's a lot of talk in Project DTO about improving our bicycling situation. The city responded right away on Westmoreland with a nice path in time for the A-Scoot opening. But the project here that's probably most furthest advanced and anticipated is the Robinson Street a direct path. Robinson Street Complete Streets project is being conducted by the FDOT. They are currently in the final stages of concept development phase. The next meeting is May 23rd, and they're looking to wrap up concept development in future weeks. The Under Eye, of course, we've seen is a very, very exciting project that we're looking to achieve after the Interstate 4 is complete. The Project DTO vision called for opportunities to use what they then call the Bridge District area to tie the east and west sides of downtown together, providing additional what they call third places for people to gather and connect and enjoy. The city believes that the Under Eye project will accomplish all of these Project DTO goals. Construction of the park will take approximately 12 to 18 months, and at this point we're anticipating that the Under Eye can open perhaps late in 2022. Of course, that's contingent upon the completion of the ultimate I-4 and if there are no further delays. The vision, specific plans, design, funding arrangement, and timeline will be further formalized as design development takes place for the project. The goal is to release an RFP this summer and to have a design team in place by the end of this year. Holidays in downtown are always a very, very special time, of course, and presently there are two requests for proposals being prepared by staff. The first one involves additional holiday decor and holiday lighting for downtown, and the second for additional permanent decorative lighting. The proposals for holiday lighting and decor are expected to complement what is already in place, such as what you see on the screen, and we expect the RFP to be released within the next 30 days. Secondly, DT Optimized. The group said that they wanted highly connected neighborhood districts in downtown. This, of course, involves stronger linkages and connection between DTO, or downtown Orlando, and our main streets, expanding and connecting parks and open spaces, and providing unique districts within downtown to create a sense of community. Bike share. Of course, bikes have become a very, very popular way of connecting areas. We first had, of course, Juice Bike, and just last year, in 2018, Juice Bike reported having more than 24,000 trips taken for a distance of over 38,000 miles. And just from November 20th of last year to April 1st, recently, Lime Bike, which of course now the dockless bikes that we're seeing and that are being very, very popular, Lime Bikes just in that 4.5-month period have recorded some 104,000 rides and logged more than 78,000 miles. Orlando's bike beltway continues to mature and evolve. Gertrude's Walk Phase 2, which is a component of that, was opened on June 6th of last year. Gertrude's Walk Phase 3, as of this month, is beginning an alignment study to connect Gertrude's Walk to the downtown connector. And the fourth phase of Gertrude's Walk, which is a trail from Link Central Station to Washington Street, is also in design as of this year. Additionally, the Orlando Urban Trail Gap, as well as the downtown connectors, are in design. The design is expected to be completed on both those projects by the end of this calendar year, with construction to be completed sometimes in 2021. Realizing the importance of transportation and the fact that we hadn't had a comprehensive transportation study in downtown for quite some time, you approved the North Quarter Vision Study. The North Quarter study was conducted by Canaan and Associates, and it contemplated not only the restoration of the one-way pairs of Orange and Magnolia back to two-way streets, but it also, in its results, recommends establishing a complete streets environment in which access, safety, and comfort for multiple forms of transportation are provided. The vision includes wider sidewalks, more enhanced bicycle facilities, landscaping, and much, much more. The next step is to perform an expanded transportation study along with an urban design realm and a marketing study component that will come all the way to the southern boundary of the CRA to Gore. And staff at the DDB CRA are working right now with transportation and planning, working on an RFP for such a study. The Colonial Drive overpass is now complete, and it connects, of course, Gertrude's Walk to the Dinky Line. It's a critical part of that Orlando Urban Trail. Ribbon cutting celebration is a week from tomorrow at 10 a.m. And you recall that this is primarily a DOT project, but you did approve investing from the CRA in order to enhance both the materials of the truss as well as signature lighting that you see associated with the project. It's very important to us. The group said they wanted to make sure that we were stayed in collaboration with our main streets in downtown, and we have done that. We're very close to both Church Street District and Thornton Park. Both are doing very, very well. Church Street District hosted over 52 events last year and generated more than $95,000 in sponsorship money as they did that. And at this time, they are in the senior stages of planning a very ambitious expansion, a geographic expansion within District 5. Likewise, our friends at Thornton Park District continue to produce their established monthly wine and art walk, which has become a staple in Thornton Park and downtown, averaging 600 to 800 guests per month. And that one event is now producing revenue that exceeds $100,000 on an annual basis. Of course, in addition to the Main Street funding from the city to both of these main streets, both receive special event funding from the DDB CRA for programming. The third topic is DT Outstanding. The group said that they wanted to offer the best education in the state of Florida right here in downtown. In order to achieve that, of course, we wanted to expand our education as a centerpiece of DTO, providing preschool all the way to postgraduate degree ability right here in downtown Orlando, providing the highest quality public education in the region, therefore attracting more families to the area, and offering opportunities for lifelong learning classes and certification courses. Initial component of success there, of course, is the Academic Center for Excellence, or the ACE School, from OCPS, a $330,000 two-story edifice at West Livingston and North Paramore. It houses not only a pre-K through 8 school, but also a Boys and Girls Club and other ancillary uses for the community. More than 1,100 students attend school at the ACE. Perhaps no action is more important to revitalizing Paramore, we believe, than the construction of this school. The history, of course, that you're well aware of is since desegregation of the area in the early 1960s, the elementary schools in Paramore had been closed and the students bused to 8 different schools outside of the community. The construction of the ACE School in Paramore was a major step in bringing this community together around education of their children. Additionally, I would add that ACE provides that pre-K through 8 segment of the pre-K through postgraduate degree education envisioned by our Creative Village to be available right here in downtown. And speaking of Creative Village and education, on May 11th of 2017, of course, UCF broke ground on the Dr. Phillips Academic Commons, a $65 million, 165,000 square foot state-of-the-art space as phase 1 of the UCF Valencia downtown campus. That phase also includes renovations to the former Expo Center. Valencia will bring in major programs, including its home to the School of Culinary Arts and Hospitality, where students will have the opportunity to learn from award-winning chefs and work with state-of-the-art culinary tools and train in a variety of cuisines. The campus will also offer, and I think this is very important as part of our Paramore initiative, accelerated skills training programs that will give participants an opportunity to prepare for high-demand, higher-wage careers in a short amount of time. These are quick start programs that will offer everything from mechatronics to transportation logistics to electronic board assembly. And of course, the UCF will bring more than 20 academic programs to its downtown campus exclusively. That list focuses mainly on 3 emergency industry clusters, including digital entertainment and communication, healthcare technology and administration, and public service. Of course, you got to house the students somewhere, and so the beginning of that is Union West, which is a 15-story, 600-bed housing building at the intersection of Livingston and Terry. This building will also be the home of the 50,000 square foot Valencia School of Culinary Arts. So the vision for Parramore, as I said, is to provide a variety of quick start training programs such as Valencia's Accelerated Skills Training, in addition to a traditional pre-K all the way to postgraduate degree education opportunity right here in the neighborhood. The Melrose Center is a 26,000 square foot digital technology center located on the 2nd floor of the Orange County Library. It offers technology-related classes and offers audio, video, and photography studios, along with flight, driving, and construction simulators, a fabrication lab with 3D printers, and a large interactive media wall. It serves the community by providing introductory and amateur enthusiasts with an opportunity to experience hands-on exploration in high-tech fields. So the 4th vision theme is DT Opportunity, providing a great place to do business. The task force said that they wanted to make DTL a welcoming business environment, provide clear and simple permitting, which you will hear much more about in your next workshop. The city has responded to that in many ways, including the introduction of Permitting Express. Energize downtown Orlando's distinctiveness with enlivened public places, commit to tech, continue our commitment to tech and entrepreneurship, and of course provide retail opportunity. So as evidence of us being a good business environment, we look to, what our business climate is and what's it's encountering. So Radisson International recently leased the floor at 20 North Orange back in September of last year and moved their international headquarters into downtown Orlando. Headquartered here, they also have offices in India and South Africa. Radix is a firm that designs and provides reservation, merchandising, and distribution platforms to airlines around the world. In addition, of course, to that headquarters, you recall that in 2015, Red Lobster opened their national headquarters here, and in February of 2016, I was with the mayor when he cut the ribbon for the national headquarters of the American Safety Council over in Landmark Plaza. Additionally, other notable brands have chosen to come to downtown Orlando. Ace Cafe, of course, is the first Ace in North America. It chose downtown Orlando as its debut. And Wahlburgers, when they looked to the state of Florida, chose downtown Orlando as the first Wahlburgers in the entire state of Florida. And our latest newcomer, if you will, a newest addition to major brands coming into downtown, Earth Fare, a healthy foods grocery chain based from Carolina with more than 50 stores located right here in downtown. And in case you're wondering, that is not a nighttime darkness, that is a pre-dawn darkness. That was 6:45 a.m. and the mayor was on the job. 20 North Orange and 1 South Orange Avenue juxtaposed to each other at a very main site right here in downtown Orlando are both undergoing major upgrades. 20 North is adding more than 12,000 square feet of ground floor retail space. They have new tenants coming in, including Capella University, Pokeworks, CI Group Furniture, and Mikatos. And then on the other side, 1 South Orange has added approximately 6,000 square feet of retail, and of course they will be the home of a new Taco Bell Cantina, which will open in the fall of this year. And additionally, the upper floors of 1 South Orange have all been renovated and serve now as the national headquarters of a company called Launch That, which is a digital marketing firm. SunTrust Plaza, as we all know, is under construction, a major $120 million edifice with more than 200,000 square feet of office space, 180-room hotel and retail space. Completion for SunTrust Plaza is scheduled for later this year. I found this interesting back in March of last year. It's from Inc. magazine. And after an article, the author wrote, "If I'm a young company that wants to create a longer runway, keep costs low to buy time before success, I would choose Orlando. The young talent is there. There's an Orlando tech ecosystem already in place that wants you to succeed. There's no state income tax, no inflated wages or housing, and there's a growing young downtown community." So again, evidence that we're being perceived and hopefully are actually a downtown business-friendly environment. Started Studio. Again, the task force wanted us to make sure that we double down and continue to be supportive of tech and startups. Startup Studio has now supported more than 500 startups that have created more than 1,000 jobs. They're actually supporting some 125 startups currently. 90 of the startups that have come through Startup Studio have graduated from their accelerator programs, and those accelerator companies have raised more than $29 million in venture capital and angel funding. Further, and the city and the CRA continue to support Startup Studio, further evidencing our support to emerging tech entrepreneurs. Co-working spaces, of course, in addition to longtime co-workers, Catalyst and CoLab and Startup Studio, since Project DTO, now Industrious Orlando, Pipeline Orlando, and last week Venture X Orlando opened, and coming soon is Novell Orlando, a proliferation of co-working spaces throughout downtown. Nationally, the co-working space concept is trending up, and so such is the case here in DTO as well. The MEBA program, which you know provides qualified new and existing retail businesses in Paramore with financial assistance. To date, that program has awarded 18 grants totaling $638,000. Since May of 2015, which is the update that we're giving, there have been 5 such businesses granted, $135,340. And of note, since that program was amended back in 2011, the success rate of MEBA recipients is now 86%. We're very proud of that fact. And of course, expanded retail in downtown. By no means are we satisfied with where we are, but we are encouraged. As we meet with retailers at ICSC annually, it gives us an opportunity to pitch downtown. Many times, those retailers, we initially tell us that they're already well represented in the Orlando area, and they'll think that they're well represented in the downtown area because they're looking at a map with a 5-mile radius, and because they're either at Millennium Mall area or somewhere on I-Drive within 5 miles of downtown, they consider that the same submarket. We, of course, know that that's not the case, and so it gives us an opportunity to sell downtown and to promote downtown as a separate and distinct, strong submarket. And so we're starting to see some proliferation since 2015 of national brands, as you see here, and that continues with Creative Village, with the brands that you see here that we will be opening there as of later this year. The Sports and Entertainment District, of course, is a major project that you've been hearing about for years. Our friends at the Orlando Magic continue to work on the pre-development stage, due diligence for that project. It'd be a huge project if and when it comes. We think that it will be a difference maker for downtown. We think it will be a destination for downtown. It envisions 200,000 square feet of office space, more than 150,000 square feet of retail space, a major hotel with a convention center space, and a 450 apartment residential component along with a major parking garage. Next big idea, DT one of a kind. So be a creative culture, and that encompasses. Group said that it wanted us to incentivize and support culture builders in downtown, attract more emerging chefs and the restaurants that they bring, expand our music and theater and art options, and create iconic public art installations, and overall make downtown a work of art. The CRA and DDB have, since its inception, have been annual supporters of Immerse, originally known as the Creative City Project. Immerse is the annual performing and interactive arts event from the Creative City Project now. Immerse 2018 was a two-day event. It featured more than 1,000 artists and performers for an audience of more than 45,000 people over a two-day period. The event is built upon unique arts encounters that audiences can't have anywhere else in the world. Highlights from the 2018 was a giant ball pit with more than 200,000 balls that was up for a month at Pine and Orange. A three-story Worlds of Corksicle installation in a vacant building. And of course, Orlando's signature arts organizations, including Orlando Ballet and the Philharmonic, brought original programming to this year's event. Immerse is doing well, and we're proud of it. One of the few surviving Victorian structures in our city, and the oldest commercial building in downtown Orlando, is now known as the Rogers Keeney Building, because of course Fort Keeney last year generously donated that building to the city to use as space as a cultural facility. The building is now, of course, has become the home of City Arts Orlando, formerly the City Arts Factory, and it's used as a gallery and performance space for that organization. We're very proud to have this historic building within our repertoire, and that it's been entrusted to the city to look forward to continuing its use to enhance the arts and cultural scene. In September 2017, the CRA sought artists to create artwork for both sides of two different walls that have been built along the recently completed leg of Gertrude's Walk. What you're seeing here is two sides of one of those walls. We selected two artists, Martha Lent and Andrew Reed, have now completed that's the smaller wall on both sides, and they're now both working to complete the larger wall, which is several feet south of these walls. Additionally, the CRA has added murals, 8 different murals, to the admin garage, which of course is jointly owned by the city and the county. That garage was built with 12 panels that were art panels that had never been adorned with any art. So we've now installed, as I said, 8 murals on them. The murals were designed by Michael Collado and Yuri Karabash, who also created a very well-received Pulse mural here in the city. So generally speaking, I think you'd agree that performing arts and arts in general and performing arts in particular are alive and well in downtown Orlando, and we continue to support and embrace those and appreciate what they bring in economic development. So we have many premier local chefs, of course, and some of those are downtown. We have 4 featured here, and the establishments that they operate. There are more than 200 dining and entertainment establishments in downtown Orlando. But as a part of the Project DTO, the city engaged in various stakeholder groups, and one of those groups was a restaurant group. It was chaired by Scott Joseph, and it consisted of more than a dozen area restaurateurs. And we basically sat down with them and said, if you're in downtown, how can we make it better? And if you're not in downtown, why not? And how can we entice you to come? And what we learned from that was that there were certain barriers to the smaller local chef-run restaurants in order to be able to offer full alcohol complements, and that full alcohol complement was a necessary component of being profitable. And therefore, with your backing, of course, we worked to bring about new local legislation for an SFS license, which lowered the threshold needed to offer mixed drinks. Essentially, it lowered it from 150, the ability to serve 150 people at once, to 80, the ability to serve 80, and it lowered the space requirement from 2,500 square feet down to 1,800 square feet. And the impact of that is that now these smaller restaurants can now buy a SFS license for about $1,800, whereas before they had to buy a full COP license, which can go somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 presently. And I'd like to point out that it was Representative Mike Miller that sponsored that legislation for us. The 6th big idea was DT Original. We want to have an iconic visual identity. And so along those lines, an identity that captures the authentic Orlando. The group said we wanted distinctive architecture and a signature skyline, and we wanted gateways and signage reflecting our unique areas, as well as creative lighting and wayfinding. What you see before you here are images of 3 of the newer high-rise buildings, either under construction in one case or recently constructed, and we think they're both, all 3 are representative of a superior architecture and design as influenced by our Appearance Review Board, ARB. Suncoast Plaza I talked about earlier, 25 stories to be completed later this year. And of course, in the center, Center City Tower. It was a 21-story, 235-unit multifamily building with 22,000 square feet of retail at the ground and the mezzanine levels. Let's see if I can get back to that. And recently completed the Modera Central, a Mill Creek project. Is a 22-story mixed-use development, including some 350 residential units and more than 13,000 square feet of retail, and of course, 20,000 square feet for the return home of the University Club, and of course, a major parking deck as well. All of these, again, have, we think, superior architecture and design, but also a real emphasis on lighting, which is something, again, at our ARB level, we continue to continuously promote in conjunction with the vision plan. Wall Street Plaza. Wall Street, of course, is home to a number of signature downtown businesses and events. Has become a real gathering place for people wanting to immerse themselves into the downtown vibrancy. The original Wall Street gateway or sign was commissioned by the CRA and installed in December of 1999. It was called the Millennium Arch. Based on time had taken its toll, and stakeholders in the area were asking us to refurbish or replace it. And you can see what the replacement looks like. The new facading does include a clock, as did the old one, and elements such as hammered copper, backlit channel letters, and LED lighting. The old Wall Street sign, by the way, is being donated to the Downtown Arts District. Realizing that a flag which is celebrated by the community becomes much more than a symbol, it becomes a source of civic pride. We think that makes people feel more connected to their city. In February of 2017, the city launched a flag redesign contest, and after more than 4 months of public input and committee discussion, the final design was officially approved by you on Monday, July 24th of 2017. As the city of Orlando's story continues to evolve, so does the need for a visual identity that is both timeless and unique to Orlando. We love our flag, Commissioners. And as further evidence of not our obsession, but our insistence on promoting lighting, as we've been influencing the process with the Ultimate I-4, we've not left lighting out there as our request. And so at our request in the downtown area, there'll be various aesthetic enhancements, including LED lighting underneath the flyovers, as well as lighted spires denoting gateways coming into downtown. So overall, signature lighting is something that we take very, very seriously, and again, at the ARB level, we continue to promote its use as a way of distinguishing our skyline in our downtown. Of course, no lighting feature is more popular, and no other feature is more original in capturing the identity of downtown Orlando than the Lake Eola Fountain. In fact, Watermark's Wave Award for 2018 was awarded to Lake Eola Park, ranked them #1 for date nights throughout Central Florida. I think more than 2.5 million people a year now visiting Lake Eola. The seventh major idea, DT Ovation, providing stellar music, sports, and entertainment. Task Force said that we should have a signature event or signature events and/or festivals. We should have a high-profile museum in downtown and a variety of special events, and of course, prominent presence in regional tourism and marketing. We think both Fusion Fest, which has just started, still in its embryonic stages, but featured dozens of cultures represented in its first year, as well as Immerse that we talked about earlier, are both defining signature events for downtown Orlando. We think both of them showcase DTO with a mix of diversity, arts, and culture unique to Central Florida. And of course, As the special events, we have hundreds, literally. Some of the bigger ones and special ones, WrestleMania 33 returned to Orlando in April 2017. Sellout crowd of more than 75,000 people at Camping World Stadium, but a week of associated events produced $181.5 million in economic impact. I'm not aware of any other event that has eclipsed that I'm aware of. The Orlando Citrus Parade, after having had somewhat of a decline and losing its television exposure, returned to TV, live television, this past year with a new production company. There were 20+ celebrity guests, including some hometown heroes. They added helium balloons and a partnership with Give Kids to the World. Downtown Orlando was featured in both the 2-hour local broadcast as well as the 1-hour national broadcast. And of course, the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts continues on with this phase 2 coming online. But what we wanted to point out was that since 2015, in 2014 and 15, the guest attendance total was just over 431,000. In 2017 and 18, that number is now eclipsed 634,000. So in addition to that, after the opening of the Steinmetz Hall of Phase 2, the Dr. Phillips Center expects to attract more than 1 million visitors annually into downtown. I say this every time I bring this project up. It has made a visible difference in our downtown, particularly in the evenings. And Camping World Stadium, again, more special events. We're all aware that the last 3 Super Bowls, Pro Bowls, well I'm wishing for that one. The last 3 NFL Pro Bowls have been played right here in downtown Orlando. But you should also be aware that Camping World Stadium and Orlando are part of a united bid for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. With Mexico, Canada, and the USA, and the actual candidates, cities that are successful candidates will be announced in 2021. Going back to the NFL Pro Bowl for a moment, those Pro Bowls averaged around 55,000 in attendance between the 3, and average TV viewership of around 8.3 million viewers per year. Of course, the Amway Center has a litany of projects or events all the time, including March Madness that was held back in 2017. In addition to March Madness, Amway Center has hosted Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, UFC Fight Night, and concerts from A to Z, including everything from Fleetwood Mac and Florida Georgia Line to Andre Bocelli and Bon Jovi. Each year, the Amway Center hosts approximately 225 events and welcomes an average of 1.3 million guests. And I will point out to the Commission that when we were building Amway and selling Amway and what we expected it to do, we were hoping that it would have average 150 events a year. They've already eclipsed 225. They're doing a wonderful job there. And that brings a lot of people into downtown. Again, downtown special events. Monster Jam 2019 World Finals will be held right here at Camping World Stadium. The Central Florida Sports Commission, the city and the county will be co-hosting that Monster Jam on May 10th and 11th. And I'm hoping that I get a seat next to one of you there. It's the 20th anniversary of Monster Jam World Finals. The event is expected to draw 50,000 fans from around the world. And also this year, the 2019 MLS All-Star Game, will be played at Orlando City Stadium. We'll be hosting that All-Star Game. The game will be broadcast on Fox, Univision, TSN, and TVA, and will be broadcast to more than 170 countries worldwide. So a lot of exposure coming there. So one of the big ideas that the group talked about was that we should have a strategy to attract a high-profile, distinctly designed museum. The Holocaust Museum of Hope and Humanity, we think, has the ability potentially to be that. The project includes the relocation of the Holocaust Memorial Resource and Education Center and an iconic museum coming into downtown. You, of course, approved the MOU that would allow the museum to be sited at the former site of the regional Chamber of Commerce and the Senator Beth Johnson Park. Once located in the heart of the city, We believe that museum will help further strengthen downtown's cultural and artistic corridor. And additionally, if done to the level of significance that we aspire to, we think that the new Museum of Hope, the Holocaust Museum of Hope and Humanity, will serve as a destination not only to Central Floridians, but to visitors, some of that 72 million plus that come from around the world into the tourist area. Will give them a reason to put downtown on their itineraries and come down. So we're very, very optimistic about that project. I would caution that this is only a early concept. The project has not been designed. Probably will not look like this image. That's premature. They have not designed it yet. This is just something that they gave us that they've been looking at. The Downtown Orlando Interactive Information Center has been undergoing renovation for quite some time. That renovation now is 99.9% complete. We passed our inspections last week on Friday, and this week FF&E, our furniture, fixtures, and equipment is being moved into the information center. It's an expanded information center. It includes enhancements to technology and a retail component, as well as a mural and much more. We expect to open it to the public within 30 days. And in the spirit of true collaboration, the new information center will host not only our staff, but we're hosting offices now of the Church Street District and the Downtown Orlando Partnership. And in a win-win situation with those organizations, we get to use those human resources to complement and extend our staff that represents us in the Downtown Orlando Information Center. So it's a good collaboration, and we're happy to have our partners on board. The eighth big idea was D-Town, a community that takes care of its own. Task Force felt that we should recognize the importance of people of all ages and families, have neighborhood beautification programs, and that we should value our history and preserve historic buildings. Of course, from the 1,200 plus events that we have in downtown Orlando on an annual basis, I think you'll agree that we have something for everyone. All age groups and demographics, and families are certainly a big part of that. And they show us to be, of course, the Orlando United that the world saw us to be after that horrific tragedy at Post. And so for us, preservation, here are three examples of prominent buildings that perhaps at one time had been considered candidates for demolition that will be preserved. Of course, the Bob Carr Theater is now managed by the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts, and eventually, after the phase 2 is complete, this building will be repurposed, possibly in conjunction with Creative Village, but that's yet to be determined. But I think it's safe to say that Bob Carr will survive and be very viable for years in the future. The Davis Armory, likewise, a building that was built, I believe, as a Work Progress Administration, or WPA project in 1938, and it's been a long time been a rec center, is also preserved for that purpose and continues to be and will be considered also as continuous with the Creative Village. And finally, the beautiful Eola House at Lake Eola, built in 1924, Mediterranean revival style, serves now as an event venue, welcome center, and as park offices. For decades, the city of Orlando had planned to have a new home for OPD. Indeed, there's nothing more fundamental to a community taking care of its own than, of course, providing for public safety. So on March, I believe, 2017, March 22nd, the city officially opened OPD's state-of-the-art headquarters, which is a wonderful facility that was actually made for the community. It as you know, features open and public spaces both inside and out, very well-utilized community room, and of course it's further our revitalization efforts in the Paramount community as well. You've heard about the Downtown Ambassador Program. I will simply point out that some of the language coming out of the Project DTO ties back into this as the efforts. One of the recommendations was to include making the downtown experience easier and more satisfying by supporting additional downtown clean and safe program, and that comes out of the DT Outlook. Our ninth big idea is DT Origins, celebrate our diverse culture and heritage. Task force felt, I think we all would agree, that Orlando's diversity is certainly an asset that strengthens our community. It felt that we should foster a culture of respect and an environment that celebrates that diversity, not just tolerates it, but celebrates it. That we should encourage, continue to encourage faith leaders in downtown, and to have multicultural festivals. Now, here's a case where a picture is worth 1,000 of my words, or 5 pictures is worth maybe 5,000 of my words. I think celebrating diversity is something that we can check the box on. We do it genuinely, sincerely. We do it day in and day out for the right reasons. I believe we've got that one covered. So finally, the 10th big idea is V to optimism. The group wanted to be a part of a city built for the future. They wanted downtown Orlando to embrace progress and new ideas, so embracing solar programs, feature more recycling, have innovative transportation. Mixed income housing kept popping up. It's something that was very important for the future. And of course, urban farming. Of course, as you look at the future, a city built for the future, and certainly this downtown of the future, you cannot talk comprehensively about our downtown future without talking about Creative Village. For the next 10 to 15 years as it continues to build out, it will be a dominant component of the downtown development profile. An impressive launch of that is that, of course, what you see today represents more than $600 million in investment in Creative Village, with the UCF Valencia campus coming into downtown. Increase recycling. Orlando's long-term goal, of course, is to become a zero-waste community. As such, the city is finding innovative ways to put waste to work and find solutions for an ever-changing waste system, such as employing next-generation waste and recycling technologies. To help meet these goals, new and specialized waste units have been placed throughout downtown to reduce littering and increase effective recycling. And of course, as of April 1st of this year, you recall, recycling is now required of all commercial and multi-family properties in the city. Perhaps nothing fulfills the intent, in my opinion, of sustainability better than the rehabilitation of existing assets, thus extending the useful life. The Richard Allen Gardens rehabilitation is a partnership between the city and its housing department and Richard Allen Gardens, Inc., a Florida nonprofit. The project provided improved housing for very low-income households and consisted of the rehabilitation of all 30 units. This project further supports the city's efforts to ensure our residents have access to quality, safe, and affordable housing, and it aligns with the recommendations from the Paramore Comprehensive Neighborhood Plan. It included new roofing, new flooring, new kitchen cabinets and appliances, and landscaping. And Mayor, you may remember that that was a 93-year-old resident that stood up and thanked you for the improvements to her unit at the dedication for that project.
She also wanted me to provide her with a pig.
She did.
We brought her a ham back instead.
You took it back.
Yes.
So, on November 12th of 2018, an MOU between the city, the CRA, and Orlando Housing Authority was approved by you, which gives us an opportunity to explore, or which allows us to explore an opportunity to construct 43 homes and or townhouses that would be, again, mixed income and for sale, and up to 19 of those 43 would be affordable units. Staff is continuing, of course, to collaborate with OHA as well as United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, to make that come to fruition. In Project DTO, said that we should identify residential areas with a concentration of vacant lots and promote infill housing on those lots to reinstate the traditional development pattern of the neighborhood. Carver Park would allow us to do that, but perhaps nothing does that better than the CRA infill homes, a project that, of course, the CRA, with your support, is self-developing, which you see are the first 3 that have been finished. The lower 2 have already been purchased and are now being lived in by new families there. The 3rd is under contract, and the next phase 2, 5 are under construction in the very next block. In Paramore Oaks will provide 211 new mixed income units, rental, obviously multifamily, with market rate, affordable, and permanent supportive housing component in 2 phases. The first phase is what you see now under construction there along South Paramore Avenue. I'm not sure if this is, okay. But if you look at the commissioners, this of course is Carter, this is South Paramore, and so this building not only dominates South Paramore coming all the way down to Conley and changes that area drastically, but I think what's really cool is that we also went on the south side of Conley and we have townhouses going here, and then on the east side of Paramore and we have townhouses going here. So this entire intersection now will embrace Z.R. Riley Park, which is just sitting there waiting for those children that will be living there to come and enjoy, and it makes that a really nice area. And then if you look to the left upper edge of the slide, those are the Paramore infill homes that I was just talking about, that you know that are 2 are sold and 1 is under contract, and of course there are houses being built in that contiguous block by us now. The other 5 are right back here, and if we could look 1/2 block to the left or to the south of this is where the Carver Park 43 units would be. And so these projects are actually seriously transitioning or transforming this area with quality, affordable, for sale, and rental housing, very high quality housing. We know that we have challenges up at Checker Park, and there's a group of staff that's working diligently with stakeholders on those challenges, and so more to follow on that. Amelia Court, again, a mixed income facility developed by Bank of America, CDC, along with Atlantic Housing. Again, will be in Paramore, within the footprint of Creative Village, 256 units, opening late summer of this year. And you recall just recently, of course, the Paramore Asset Stabilization Fund came in and purchased some 83 units of rental housing in Paramore. The fund intends to renovate all 83 of those units within 12 months. We've already seen that work has already started, and of course the city and the CRA contributed toward those renovations. Urban farming continues to gain momentum on the west side. It's expanded. The newest expansion is at OCPS A School. Of course, the Paramore Community Garden continues to thrive with 19 plots that are attended by area residents, and there's a very popular spot on South Street as well. All of these farms are now being managed by Fleet Farming, which empowers local residents with the tools and the knowledge to promote and establish local food production. Everything that is grown on these various neighborhood farms is being sold within a 5-mile radius to restaurants and farmers markets. Speaking of farmers markets, the Paramore Farmers Market, of course, has returned as of January of this year. It's open every Saturday, 10 a to 2 p.m. On Central. It's a weekly farmers market. It's part of a USDA grant, you recall. Program will help give residents the opportunity to start or grow a business by encouraging entrepreneurship by providing fresh food within a declared food desert. And of course, one of the success stories of Paramore Farmers Market is the Black Bee Honey, which is a program started and run by Paramore Kids Zone youth. And the mission of Black Bee Honey is to provide Paramore youth an opportunity to operate and manage their own business, address the food desert issue of the community, and provide residents of the area with high quality nutritional honey. And of course, the Orlando Farmers Market at Lake Eola on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. continues to grow. We're up to more than 100 vendors. In fact, we have a waiting list that's about that long as well. And since 2015, the DTO Outlook, the trends there are that we're trending to have more families at the farmers market on Sunday, and we're noticing more tourists that are coming to the farmers markets as well. So how are we doing? Of some 215 opportunities for strategies, projects, or initiatives, I am happy and proud to present to you that 160 of those have been acted upon. So they're either complete or in progress. And since 2015, when you approved the DT Outlet, Our Beloved Downtown Orlando has been recognized more than 30 times, including by the International Downtown Association for the Paramore Comprehensive Neighborhood Plan in 2017, by the Florida Redevelopment Association in 2018 for our Nighttime Economy Management Program, and a gold award by the International Economic Development Council, IEDC, for the partnership between OCPS, A School, and UCF. Additionally, just weeks ago, Insider indicated that downtown Orlando named one of 50 destinations everyone wants to visit in the U.S. this summer. So, you know about that. I think I'll frame that and put it in my bedroom at home. But everybody wants to come to downtown Orlando. That sounds good to me. And finally, utilize emerging trends in real estate for this year, the top 10 markets and emerging trends in real estate. And of course, you see Orlando solidly placed right there at number 4 out of that top 10. That's a great list to be on. So as I end, Mayor and Commissioners, with where I started. The Mayor directed 97 volunteers and about 30 or 40 staff people to chart the path to creating the highest quality urban environment in the nation, right here in downtown Orlando. I hope that from what we provide and what you already know, what you see, that you agree, as do I, you feel as do I, that with your continued support and guidance and leadership and the support of the private sector stakeholders that's so important that we collaborate with, that we're indeed charting that path and headed in the right direction toward reaching that very lofty goal. Mayor?
Thank you, Thomas. That was extremely comprehensive. And I think we are well on our way to being the best urban environment. There's not a weekend ever that you can't come down on Friday, Saturday, or something. And Lake Eola is alive, Dr. Phillips is alive, generally the Amway Center is alive, downtown, just people of all ages enjoying a great quality of life here. But what was important today, I think, is to point out that all this stuff just doesn't happen haphazardly, that we have stakeholders that help us create a vision and a strategy and a path, and we're following those recommendations to get where we want to go. So thank you for that update.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Commissioner Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Mayor Dyer, how thorough, Thomas. And I'd like to thank you and your staff for your leadership, and also the community stakeholders, because as Mayor Dyer stated, this work is not in silos, that it really is the input of the community and giving us a vision on how we must move forward. And I can say the state of downtown in Paramore is alive and well. And it is because of the leadership and the valid efforts of your staff. So a big, big thank you to our downtown workers and the Paramore CRA. Thank you also, Walter, for all the work that you've done as the urban director there, working with our CRA. You know, I am a resident, a long time, not lifetime, but from 9 years old, moving here to Orlando from the big city of Tavares, Florida. And when I came here, our downtown was somewhat active. Matter of fact, we always thought we was coming to the big city when we came over to Orlando to shop. But in the 90s, it became desolate and blighted, just as Paramore. And now I think it has gone from blight to boom, because we see cranes all over downtown Orlando, throughout Paramore. And with that, it's opportunity. We have education, jobs, just a hub of different things that's happening. And I am so very proud to work with this council and have the support of Mayor Dyer here in District 5. I often tell folks I am fortunate to be the representative of the Tales of Three Cities, and that is the economic machine here in the downtown corridor, the workforce community here in the Paramore, Ivy Lane, I would say Carver Shores communities, but also that extends to many of the multicultural communities over in the Metro West corridor. But as I see us moving forward, to see this become a sports entertainment district, a performance entertainment district, the revenue that we occur because of the downtown corner, Commissioner Gray, I'm much thankful for, because it does make the work over on the west side of downtown much more easier with the revenue. So just amazing job, and I'd like to just thank all the business owners that continue to invest in our downtown corner to make the work easier on the west side.
Obviously, all of this comes with the work of a lot of people. You don't get to come face to face with most of them most of the time. So I asked several, not all, but several of our staff members to come. I'd like to ask them to stand at this time and be recognized, because it's their work that I get a chance to reflect to you on an ongoing basis. That's the cue, guys. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Commissioner Gray?
Thank you, Mayor. And Thomas, thank you. I don't think I've seen a presentation last an hour and 20 minutes before, so thank you very much.
I'm probably the tallest presenter you've seen, too.
Thank you. And look, I hate to throw a blanket on the excitement, but I must admit, I'm not as excited as what's going on downtown as I was at one time. And I think Commissioner Hill said it best, and that is, we have a CRA that pumps out about $28 million a year, and it funds a lot of our activities, and I think we need to nurture that in the downtown businesses. And that's where I'm struggling, Thomas, and I'm using kind of I-4 to the west and Lake Eola to the east. Let's use Lake Ivanhoe to the north and Orlando Health to the south. So that area. And I put it in two categories, daytime and nighttime. And while we have a lot of great things going on, and you mentioned it, I've been working downtown for 30 years, and that's my perspective. I've officed, and you've heard me say this before, I've officed in the Wells Fargo building at the north end of town. I've been in the Bank of America Plaza, Midtown. I've been at 20 North Orange. I've been at Citrus, and now I'm in the SunTrust building. So I've officed for 30 years, come downtown. So I've lived downtown for 30 years, and I've seen it when it was a ghost town, and now I see it now at night, where I would challenge anybody to tell me it's not out of control. And yes, I said it, it's out of control at night. But here's my problem in the daytime. Throughout all these great things we're doing, when you really look at what the market's telling us, right? The market's always going to take advantage and put capital where they have opportunity. We have, you help me, Thomas, plus or minus 70 bars?
Probably 8.
Plus or minus. We have, in that area, 2, maybe 4 retailers. You got Walgreens and you have the jewelry store. And then if you want to throw in the grocery stores, Publix on the east side and in the new Earth Fair. But that's it. I mean, that by any measure, that's not a good balance. And so, and then I throw on that, tell me restaurants. How many tablecloth restaurants do we have downtown? Maybe 6. And so what that tells me is the market saying there's not enough opportunity for us to come down here. And I've said this 2 or 3 years ago, so I'm not saying anything new. You guys have heard me say that. So despite all these great things we're doing, we're still not capturing, and why this is important, back to what Commissioner Hill said, is I'm in that business environment. And I can tell you the young people in our crowd, they might go out for a drink after work, but by 10 o'clock, they are running from downtown. They're going to Winter Park, they're going to Sand Lake Road, they're going out west. Some of them are starting to come, believe it or not, down to Lake Nona, but they don't want to be downtown. And I find it amazing that you guys made a presentation and didn't talk at all about the challenges downtown at night. And here's what I see, and I've said it before, no news. The only people making money downtown are the bar owners. The taxpayers are picking up the bill for public safety, police and fire. By the way, we can't even get police officers to volunteer for that duty, no matter how much we pay them. And the reason why, in my opinion, the reason why, they know it's unsafe. You can't put thousands of people in a crowded environment and expect anybody, police officers are human too, to feel safe and comfortable. We have too many people drinking too much alcohol in too confined of an area. And we haven't been willing to deal with that, in my opinion. So it's public safety, it's infrastructure. When folks get out of the bars, they're drunk and they're unruly. They ruin our streets, they ruin our sidewalks, they damage our parking garages. Who pays for that? The taxpayers. And a lot of it's the CRA. And so I don't think the nightlife here, no matter what you do, you can go see all the cities you want to go see and learn about what they do. Until we stop the number of bars downtown, you're not going to have a vibrant nightlife. And what scares me as a commissioner, we've spent a ton of money on the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center, the new venue, or the Amway Center, Creative Village coming in. We have a big incentive to make sure downtown is a positive experience. And I've gone to Dr. Phillips, as most of you have. What happens after a show? People don't go out for coffee and dessert and relax. They jump in their car and they get out of downtown because they don't like the environment that we're presenting. And so there's a lot of reasons that nightlife is a problem, but even in the daytime, sorry, I'm unloading and I apologize, but in the daytime, I would challenge you, how many new corporate relocations have we had downtown? The biggest one I can think of, corporate, is probably Red Lobster that brought 200 jobs several years ago. Corporate relocations are going to the suburbs. Why? Because that's where their employees want to be. In today's world, it's all about employees. And employers are going where their employees want to be. They don't want to be downtown. Why? Because of what I said before. We don't have a good amenity mix. There's nothing for folks to do. That's why you see a lot of the building owners doing their own food courts, et cetera, inside their building, because there's nothing on the street for their employees to go and do. The homeless problem, I know we're dealing with it. That's good. We're addressing it, but it's still a deterrent. And what's happening is nobody's coming downtown, and even the new building that Lincoln's doing, it's a beautiful new building. The tenants that are going in there aren't coming and relocating. They're not saying, ooh, we've got a brand new building downtown right on Sunrail, let's negotiate a lease. No, it's the tenants that are already here are relocating. The construction company, the architectural firm, and SunTrust Bank. So we do have a lot of great things going. But guys, I think we need to take a look at our committee or who's involved. I looked at your committee. There's not one downtown corporate business principal involved. Not one that I saw. So I'm rambling, but guys, I'm looking at my peers here on the council. Downtown, I'm not proud of downtown, especially after 10 o'clock. I think it's something that's unruly and out of control, and I don't see us dealing with it, and I think we do. So I'll shut up. You can challenge me if you like, but I got it off my chest. Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about downtown DTO and the committee? They are addressing, and that is part of the vision plan of retail, of restaurants, and things of that nature.
And just before we get there, the history on a lot of this, and I totally disagree on the relocations. We may not be getting the relocation that's 1,000 employees, but we are getting those people that are techie companies, and half the ribbon cuttings I do, the people say, we want to be downtown because that's where our employees want to be, is downtown. And then I do agree with you, it'd be nice if we had a better mix between bars and retail and restaurant, and before I was mayor, they actually had incentive programs to bring restaurants down that ended up wasting a lot of money because the restaurants weren't sustainable. So the market's going to drive some of that, but one of our big, the thing that was going to change the downtown in terms of retail and restaurants was having people live downtown. Because we've always had the people working downtown, but until the last decade, we really haven't had people living downtown, hence we get the Walgreens and some of the other retail that's coming in. But we've looked at retail, it's just tough to compete with the Mall Millennia and getting people other than the ones that are down here already that are going to drive to downtown simply for the retail.
I agree, but it's my opinion that capital will find opportunity, and as many people are moving downtown, and I agree, businesses aren't opening up here. There's some it's some combination of lack of convenient parking, the homeless issue, which again, I know we're dealing with, And the fact that there's not a lot of opportunity, meaning locations for folks to be in. Again, I'm not trying to be critical of one person or your leadership, Mayor. I'm just saying, as a city, we got to step back and say, we got a lot of good things going, but downtown needs, in my opinion, some tweaking. It's just not there.
Commissioner, it would be completely inappropriate for me to debate you in this forum.
Why not?
But-
Come on, that's a
so
workshop.
I
That's
wanna
what
try
it
to
is.
do
I'm
that.
not saying I'm always right, but come on.
I won't do that. I would just point out a few things. Number one, your aspirational downtown might not be the same as the 97 people that led Project DTO. It may not be consistent with their aspiration. Number two, when you say to yourself that SunTrust is being built, and it's not that new companies are coming in and taking that space, it's companies that are already in downtown who are leaving those leases, and they're choosing to remain in downtown by leasing a newer building at a higher lease rate. So that tells you, I mean, that they have that choice. SunTrust could have done something differently. We know that. So even that. But with that, the fact is that our occupancy rate for office right now is about 92%. Quote unquote, that ain't bad. It's certainly better than what it was 10, 12, 15 years ago. Insofar as you're saying us being vibrant, I would challenge that one statement that we are vibrant downtown. We have a great 8 to 5 downtown, and our downtown after 10 at night is certainly different. It's probably not your cup of tea. Perhaps it isn't mine. I live here, 24 hours a day. My wife and I often come downtown, come downstairs at night just to people watch. It's really interesting at times. But it is a vibrant downtown. I would not agree that it's out of control. I understand you characterizing it in that way. But I don't think that OPD would agree with that. I certainly don't agree with that. Right. It's a different crowd after 11 o'clock at night. I've witnessed it. I've gone down at 2 and 3 o'clock. I've seen the push that seems to be somewhat chaotic. That's why they're bringing in now the transportation hubs. They really mean to bring more order to that process. And there's other things we can look at. We have brought to this very commission the fact that perhaps we could extend alcohol hours so that you're not running people out between 2 and 3 in 1 hour, where you're pushing out 20,000 people having to leave 80 clubs and go into find their parked cars, and then leave downtown all within an hour. So there's various things that we can look at. We will continue to look at. That's what the action teams associated with the Nighttime Economy Committee are starting to look at yet again now, and they will bring recommendations, as they should, to this body for policy considerations in the future. But and I apologize, I don't mean to be combative with you. It's just that I love downtown Orlando, and I'm dedicated to it. And there are too many downtowns around the country, including right here in our own state, that look to us and aspire to be just what we are, and ask us all the time, how you're doing what you're doing. So we're not perfect. I don't mean to say that. I know better than that. We'd love to have a better mix. We'd love to have the people that come in to see the ballet stay for dinner and dessert afterwards. I'd love to be able to walk down the street and have a jazz combo, do some calypso or something. There are a lot of things that we aspire to that we haven't gotten there yet. But we're not a big city. We're sort of an adolescent, and our downtown is still an adolescent. We're growing up. We're not grown yet. We're getting there. But I think there's a certain sequence, and the sequence begins, I believe, with what the mayor said, having people live here 24/7. Once you have enough rooftops, the retail will follow, and so will everything else. You and I both know that's what a market is. The market is going to follow itself. So you can't artificially inseminate market. You can't prop it up with incentives and make it successful if the market doesn't support it. And so our market supports certain things. If our market will support more tablecloth restaurants, we will get more tablecloth restaurants. If they continue to be successful, then more of those will come. We're hoping for that. That's why we did the push on the SFS legislation that Mike Miller sponsored for us, and it takes time. So again, I apologize. I want to sort of reel myself back a little bit. I don't mean to get into a one-on-one with you, but downtown has a lot of good things going on, and you said that we didn't say anything about the problems. My job today from the CEO was to come and update you on the status of our downtown outlook, the DTO plan. And so that's what I did. I'd be the first person to say that, as every downtown does, we have challenges and issues. Most of them are not unique to us. They are mostly part of societal conditions around the nation, sometimes around the world. So I agree that we're not perfect. We've got a ways to go. But I still think we're charting that path that the mayor directed us to, charged us to do, and I'm proud of downtown Orlando.
Okay. Two
Commissioner,
questions and then
all
I'll
of
be quiet.
the establishments were geared toward your age bracket and my age bracket for 11 to 2. We would definitely not have to deal with too much activity in the evening.
I get it. I'm fine sleeping at night and not getting in the young crowd. There's something wrong with the system when you have to block off streets and you've got police officers who will not volunteer at higher pay to do it. And we ought to ask them. Just ask them.
No,
You know?
I
So the other thing I would say, and then I'll shut up, I promise, Mayor, the only thing I'd say about the tech jobs, they're good, I'm glad we have them, but let's all remind ourselves, we have been operating in a fabulous economy for the last 7 to 10 years. Tech, by design, runs with a lot of venture capital, it's high risk and it's high reward. If the market softens, I would submit, we need to be hanging our hat on corporate employers who have some financial staying power, because I've seen that tech companies, unfortunately, when the economy softens, they have a hard time raising capital. And by design, it's just risk reward. And it's okay. It's not, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but we don't have corporate employers downtown like I wish we would, and they're philanthropic and they're stable and they get their employees involved in the community. So I'll shut up. Thank you.
Commissioner Ings.
Thank you, Mayor Thomas. Yeah, you ran a marathon today. You even took over for Dominique and David, you know, when you came in to speak the third time. And I would say this, the DTO Ambassador Program, I think in the slide, did I see some new uniforms? Did I see some? Are they here now? The new uniform? Can you, step out so I can see. Thomas, if y'all haven't done anything today, you did a super job when you changed these uniforms from that dreadful gray to now this elaborate, lovely black.
Amen to that. I second that.
Well, thank you, ma'am. I really wanted to emphasize that because, the last time y'all were here and you were talking about your Downtown Ambassador Program, I wanted to say something about how dreadful that gray uniform looked, but I didn't want to, kind of embarrass anybody or anything like that. But I'm glad somebody read my mind and came up with this idea, because when I looked at the pictures, I was just really feeling good about it, because the new uniforms look so appealing and they look welcoming as an ambassador in that community. So obviously the employees love it too, so that's a great thing. So I want to compliment you on that. And then in reference to the special event management case study, how far along or how in depth are you with that particular study?
Probably 30% into it. It's not in the senior stage by any means. The Nighttime Economy Committee was only fairly recently reconstituted with the group, the 30 seats that you see now, and brought together within the last 30, 45 days. And so those action teams have just been activated, the ones that you saw presented today. So the work is still not necessarily embryonic, but in its earlier stages, not in the senior stages yet.
Okay. If you would, just please keep me informed and abreast of that, because I think that's really, really good, especially as far as getting into the case study portion.
Yes, sir.
To see how these other cities are operating, what they're doing. And Commissioner Gray did bring up some valid points as far as the companies with the staying power, especially the restaurants, the table cloth restaurants and stuff, that will support our Performing Arts Center in downtown with the new Steinmetz Hall coming in and all that. So we're going to be complete with that particular project, and then obviously with the downtown UCF and Valencia campuses, when the parents come to visit their children that are students in the dorms and everything, they're going to want to have some nice places to go for dinner and even lunch from that perspective.
Agreed.
But I would also say this, how do you compete with City Walk at Universal and Disney Springs? Because, you know, they've got their downtown, quote, emphasis, and that was part of the problem with what happened when we lost out with Church Street Station, when it was vibrant, everything was going, buses were coming in. I worked off duty as a police sergeant, police lieutenant at that time in downtown Orlando, so I saw the buses, I saw the activity, I saw Church Street Station. Lily Marlene's was my favorite because I love the oyster Rockefeller that they served in the restaurant. But those are the types of restaurants that we really do miss in downtown. So how do you really compete against those organizations?
You know, we're talking apples and oranges, of course, because when you talk about a City Walk or a Disney Springs, formerly known as Downtown Disney, you're talking about destinations with single management control. So one entity controls the entire environment. They decide, in fact, they professionally profile what the tenant mix is going to be, and then they simply plug in the tenants that fit that profile. It's a different concept. A downtown, you know, is owned by hundreds of property owners, managed by hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals, and so you don't have the ability to simply dictate what your tenant mix will be. We do have our advantages, and I think that any downtown is unique to an area. There's an authenticity to a downtown, even including the underbelly, if you will, the sort of bohemian component of it, the grit of downtown that is unique and different. And some people actually want to come to that. When we were looking at the fact that we miss out on quite a bit of a convention business in downtown because we don't have facilities that are as large as we'd like to have to bring in 1,000 people. You've heard us talk about those numbers. One of the things we noticed there was that there are state associations, for example, that revolve around the state on an annual basis for their annual conventions. And they've been to Orlando several times, and they've done the City Walk thing, they've done the iDrive thing, and they really aspire to do the authentic downtown Orlando. They want to know, what is Orlando really like? And so we're confident that there's business there that's on the table that we can bring in the future. But so downtowns are different than those types of destinations because we don't have the ability, as I said, to control the monopoly board because we don't own all of the property. But I like our chances. We're different from them. I don't know that any of us aspire to be Church Street Station again. I don't know that that's a logical or reasonable thing for us to aspire to be, given that Disney and City Walk are there. So we have to be the best that we can be at what we are. Commissioner Gray obviously has valid points on many things that he said, and that's why we work every day to try and find what the best practices are. Because again, those problems are opportunities for us in our downtown are rarely unique to us. As I talk to my counterparts across the country, I'll remind you that I once chaired the board for the International Downtown Association. I've served on that board for many years, so I know a lot of people doing this, around the nation. Downtowns around the nation have similar issues, have similar problems. Retail is always the last component to come back. And in many instances, retail will never be in downtown like it was before. Sears and Roebuck is not downtown anymore. Macy's is not downtown anymore. Those days are over. In fact, in the next 20 years, you're going to see what happened to downtowns in the last 30 years happen to malls over the next 20 years as those big box retailers go more and more to internet sales and less with big box retail because of their overhead and whatnot. So it's just a different world that we live in now. So I don't think we ever should expect downtown Orlando to have the retail diversity and variety that it had 50 years ago when it was the hub for retail shopping in downtown. But again, that's not unique to our downtown. If you go to other cities, particularly our size, and we feel much bigger than we are. I mean, Central Florida is an area with a very strong growth trajectory, but we're still just a city of 275,000 or so? If you compare our downtown to other cities of 275,000, I think we stack up pretty well.
Yeah. I was thinking in the north part of Orange Avenue, we do have some restaurants down there that are very nice, but it's the distance between the core of downtown and where you are there. But it's about niches too, building that niche as far as a business and organization coming into the downtown area, because they do have to see some profitability
Well, certainly.
out of that and how it's going to help their profits. But at the same time, you know, what are we doing to try to encourage them to come to downtown?
What? Oh, you mean specifically restaurants? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about the restaurants and even some retail operations too. Because, you know, when you talk about the vibrancy of downtown, it's multifaceted. You're talking about even New York City, for instance, you know, the fashion district. Do we have a fashion district in downtown Orlando? Can we create one that will make and bring some vibrancy to downtown Orlando? Because, you know, one of the comparisons was New York City in the presentation that you presented today. But how does that really stack up? Because New York City and its downtown area is much more vibrant, lots of movement, Times Square, all of that, and, you know, I can't see a comparison.
Yeah, well, I don't know that we aspire to be Times Square, Commissioner, but certainly there's a difference. Let me say this. When it comes to retail, my experience has been, and these are words that I use, forgive me if I offend anyone, you cannot artificially inseminate successful retail.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
If you talk to Walmart's or Target or any of the major big box retailers, and you say to them, I will give you a free building in a certain area if you will put your store in our area, they won't simply say, thanks, I'll take it. They will come and they will analyze the area. They have an overlay that they will put over the area, and if you don't meet the numbers that you have to meet, they won't be interested in that free land or that free building, because they know that the market is not going to support them. So once they're open, they can't sustain themselves. So, I mean, they're very smart. They know their business. They know their markets. So incentivizing retail is a tricky, high-risk business. As the mayor said in earlier days, before I was here, I've read about it in some of our records, we were incentivizing restaurants to come into downtown. And that was at a time when I guess we didn't have any, probably. And so, and the success rate of that was very checkered, to say the least. So incentivizing retail is high risk and probably not the most sustainable methodology to employ. Insofar as again bringing retail in the industry, the saying is rooftops. Retail follows rooftops, which means retail comes behind people, residences. If you bring enough rooftops, then if you've got enough people within 1 mile and 3 mile area with a household income above a certain amount, then Target will want to be there. But until that situation exists, they won't want to be there. And so when you hear the mayor talk about, and you hear myself talk about the proliferation of residential in downtown, there's a reason why we're very proud and we watch that as the canary in our mine shaft. Because as long as that number keeps going up, that bodes well for our future. That's going to bring more services and goods because the market will respond to the demand. Some of the other things are a matter of societal and cultural patterns. You see from here that the task force wanted us to be more walkable, and have more, be more bicycle friendly, and that's certainly true. But also the fact is, within our area and within the Deep South in general, people still love their automobiles. And I mean, you look at Sunrail's numbers and compare that with commuter rails in northeastern area of the country, you'll see a vast difference in just the attitudes that people have in the South. So we have some other things to overcome, but again, we have a lot of advantages that we're very thankful for, and we do know, as the mayor said, that you can't just happen upon success. You need a plan, and you need to follow that plan. The plan that we're following is one that 97 leaders said that they would love to see us follow, And that's the plan that we adopted, and that's the plan that you approved. That's the DT Outlook in May of 2015. And 4 years later, the update is what I gave you today. And we're staying direct and staying true to that plan.
So what would you see as the top 2 challenges for downtown Orlando? And I just said 2, just 2 that you could think of.
Well, there's different ways for me to look at that. When I appear before organizations and groups of people and talk, and I'm sure the mayor hears the same thing, the 2 things that come up most frequently as quote-unquote issues are what people call homelessness and parking. Those are the 2 items that people say, well, you know, when I come downtown, it's too hard for me to find a place to park. You don't have enough parking places in downtown. So that's we try to get over that. There's an educational situation to that. You're going to see more wayfinding to our parking garages because we are reaching a point, because we lost all the spaces under I-4 and we lost the Church Street garage, that parking is tighter. But rarely ever are all the parking spaces in downtown actually taken at any given time. But you know, the ones that are most focal, more convenient, are the ones that people go to first, and those are the ones that people are saying that they're encountering problems with getting to those. On the homelessness end, we could go on for a long time. That's a societal condition, as you know, that we're addressing in a multitude of ways. Some of the people that are thought to be homeless or panhandlers perhaps may not be homeless, but you know, this commission, of course, has been a dynamic leader in addressing homelessness, and we continue to do that. We've housed more than 300 people on the permanent supportive housing piece. It's an expensive proposition, and we continue but we continue to be committed to it. The funding is there year after year, and addressing homelessness on the streets, both OPD as well as our HOPE team and our ambassadors. That's primarily what they have to encounter on a daily basis, and they have to be trained to deal with those situations. It is not easy. People on the street have varying degrees of intelligence. Some of them know the law better than I know the law, and so when you say to them, sir, could you move along because the property owner or the merchant here doesn't want you to stand here, they say, I have a right to stand here. It's on the public right-of-way, it's the public sidewalk, and so what can you say? So, but we deal with that. And again, that's not unique to us. That's in urban areas around the nation and indeed around the world. But those are the top 2. Parking and homelessness are the top 2 that come to me as obstacles.
At my last, I'd just like to say thank you, Thomas, thank you, Dominique, and thank you, David. Great presentations.
Thank you, sir.
Very comprehensive, and I love your slide presentation as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, man. I was starting to think I was going to be able to talk.
Well, we got 3 minutes left.
Thank you. I'll make it quick. Downtown is definitely a destination, and as a destination that it is, I really appreciate your committee roster. I'm going to offer, there's 4 or 5 things I want to say, but one of the things I want to do is suggest that we expand that committee roster by, in the sense of law enforcement and code enforcement. We have a deputy chief, and we also have the director of code enforcement. I would get somebody from the actual beat, like a sergeant or an officer, for both, that knows the heartbeat of what's really going on, because as you know, as first experience, instead of conveying it to another person where we may lose some of the translation there. I think that would definitely help even more. The other thing I would suggest is, as a destination that downtown is good that you have the core of the people that are there from the business standpoint and those who live there. But those are the ones inside the box. I would also suggest you bring some people from outside the box, from the districts. Maybe from, I don't know, Southeast or the West Side or whatnot, that can tell you the perception of the people outside of that box about downtown and how we can better downtown from a different perspective. Those are a couple of things that I wanted to add to that. How many ambassadors do we have downtown right now?
A total of probably 16. 16 plus ops managers, 17 total.
Awesome. And are we doing reports about the stats on every aspect, a list of the projects that are going on, what the results are, that if later on we can discuss, we can look at and evaluate?
Yes, one of the reasons you may recall that we chose Block by Block was a program they have called Smart System. And each ambassador has an iPad type device, a tablet device with them. And as you heard, I think Dominique say during her presentation, actually on a daily basis, the ops manager gets to download and take a look at where every ambassador has been for every moment they're on duty. I mean, it traces their, it's GPS is just tracing them. So, and then he has an entire litany of statistical data that is available to them. So yes, there's a good system there of capturing the information and all the data pertinent to what they're doing.
I want to say in reference to this subject that we've been talking about retail downtown, I hope and I think as we continue to fill downtown with residents that the need arises, because and you use an example that was not a good example, Sears, because Sears is closing all over the place. But we have other places around the nation, like in Los Angeles, Boston, New York, where Macy's, DSW, ladies, you know how that is, what is it, North Rack or Northrum, whatever? Nordstrom, yes. These stores are very successful in these places. And so I don't see that totally being out of the picture, the model of having great stores or department stores downtown. It's just, as we have been discussing, as the population increases and the need arises, because people want to be local. That's something we're experiencing with the main streets, where people want to just walk to that bar or walk to the store or whatnot. So I still hope that downtown becomes that destination, because as Commissioner Gray was saying, some of us, I love my district and I love how it keeps growing, and hopefully one of these days we'll have a 31-page report about the great things going on in my district. But one of the things that I love is that I can go to the restaurants and I can go to the shopping center right in my district. And I seldomly come downtown unless I'm going to a game or if I'm going to something, some play or whatnot, Dr. Phillips Performing Arts. I would love to be able to come over and during the lunchtime go to a retail store, maybe go to, I don't know, Macy's or something like that to pick some item or whatnot for my fiance, right? But it's not there yet, and I hope to see that in the future by all means. I want to ask you about the SFS legislation. Is this something that is going to apply to all the restaurants around the city, or is this just for downtown?
It's in the downtown area. And the boundaries are not precisely the same as the CRA, but there are boundaries in the legislation. They went further I know they went further to the east. The CRA stops at Summerlin. I think we went all the way to Mills Avenue on the east side. But there are boundaries associated with the legislation.
There's a particular reason why this is just for the downtown?
Because it's an exception to state law. So state law has certain parameters on square footage, and the justification in the downtown is we have a lot of smaller spaces that we're reusing, that if the little restaurant doesn't have the ability to sell alcoholic beverages, they can't make it on just the food part of it. And if you're out in the suburbs, theoretically, or at least the discussion is, you have an opportunity to meet the criteria that the state law already has.
And recognizing that the square footage rentals in downtown is considerably higher than square footage rentals out of downtown.
You know, I see that legislation being challenged soon, because I'm pretty sure all restaurants are going to want to have the same benefit, even if they're in the outskirts or whatnot. But anyhow, that's not for us to
Well, Commissioner, they could certainly change the state law for all of the restaurants if the legislature decided to do that.
Home rule, right, Mayor? Home rule. Right. Anyhow, one last thing. You made a comment about offering the best education in the state of Florida in downtown Orlando. I'll be very cautious with saying that again.
I'm sorry?
About Orlando, the whole city of Orlando, just not downtown. For the best education in downtown, we have our schools. We're pretty picky and jealous about anybody else competing against us. So.
Points well taken, we understand. But this was a downtown vision plan.
I get it. But you know, it seems like we are spending so much in downtown.
Well,
our districts feel a little neglected from time to time, and we just want to make sure that we maintain that level of.
Well, of course, I remind the Commissioner, I'm sure you're aware, that the CRA's funding comes from the CRA.
I get it.
And so the money does,
And that's what I'm saying.
statutorily it has to be reinvested within those
I get it,
geographic.
and that's why I'm saying it, because nobody else get a chance to have a CRA like downtown. And we try to do the same thing in other areas, but sadly enough, it has not happened. So, opportunities that come to downtown are not necessarily the ones that we get in our districts, and we have to struggle to get things done in our district. And I have a whole list of things I could talk about. This is not the moment, but I would like to see the same attention coming to our districts too. So, thank you.
Hold on, you done, Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hill?
I'll be remiss to say that for over 40, 50 years, the West Side, and especially Paramore, has not even had a school, okay? And have not had the proper programs put in place. So now finally, now that we're 50 years behind time, we're doing right by Paramore and making sure that it is now an educational hub, making sure that while we're practicing equality throughout the city of Orlando, the people of Paramore are finally being recognized and not neglected. Let's not forget that. So yes, there has been great schools all throughout the city and county. There's been multiple economic development, even downtown, since the 80s and 90s. Finally, the CRA has recognized the very people that it was proposed for originally. So, I mean, I understand that everybody wants a CRA, especially thriving CRA. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for your votes and support on making the playing field equal. And we're doing the right thing by our downtowners. And now we finally have crossed I-4 to the west side to put housing in place, health and wellness in place, economic development, and now education with the partnership of UCF Valencia. They could have gone to, they already are on the east side. They already have a hub of education over in the UCF.
That's way out in the county, man.
Yeah,
You need to realize it's not a District 2.
I think that's a bone to pick with UCF.
It's not District 2, I'm talking about my district, and it's not a reflection on you, Commissioner.
Okay.
It's not a reflection on you.
Well, I gotta speak for the people.
Well, let's be specific. We don't have a PKC.
How about if we remember this? We're not competing with each other. Remember, our whole mantra has been that as a region, we're not competing one against another. We're competing against other regions. So I don't think we need to pit districts against districts. Downtown, I consider, it happens to be in one of the commission districts because it has to be, but downtown's for everybody. And you know what, not just for the city of Orlando, it's Central Florida's downtown. And people tell me in Lake County that they consider the Dr. Phillips Center theirs. And when they're out of town, they act like it's in Claremont or somewhere like that. So I don't see how.
Mayor, but a lot of the funding that is being taken by the CRA is being neglected, is going to, law enforcement cannot be paid with CRA monies. And the money's coming from all around the city. And those are monies, we're talking about $27 million. Those are monies that our districts are lacking. And right now, we're shorting personnel in code enforcement, in law enforcement. The development, at least in my district, is really slow, and any request that I may make takes forever and ever, and I can make a whole list of things. PKC, CRA, transportation, Kmart Plaza, incentives for business. I mean, and the list goes on. And I just wonder how long it's going to take for my district to get this attention. And I'm talking for my people too. And there's a great diverse community in my district, so this is my
So
point.
it's Paramore.
Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just share a couple of things, and then I promise I'll be short. As you know, Thomas, we've talked often and often about looking at data, okay? Commissioner Ortiz is correct. I haven't seen the data on what's happening with ambassadors. Haven't seen the data on what's happening with police calls in downtown Orlando. And I don't have about the what's happening with police presence in downtown Orlando. Haven't seen the data about what's happening with code enforcement. I think we're doing pretty good on events.
Yes, sir.
Some of that data is what's I'd like to drive. I'd like to see that. We talked about the ambassadors as an example, and we've bragged that we have data. I've not seen it. I know that they walk in a certain area, but I'd like to know what's going on in North Quarter in my district. Don't see that. And so I don't know whose responsibility that is, but it seems to me eventually will fall on your shoulders of getting the data, and let's have a talk about what's happening and then the progression of that. I agree with kind of everybody a little bit, candidly, but I think that Commissioner Ortiz has got a good suggestion, and that is, what's the perception outside of Orlando, outside of downtown, about downtown? I think that touches on to Commissioner Gray's idea. I know it touches on Commissioner Hill's idea. And I know the CRA is oftentimes is the most misunderstood taxing district that we have in the entire city. So I go to meetings and the answer is, why are you doing this downtown, you're not doing it in my district? And you have to re-educate. So I think that's part of it. We're looking at a lot of this kind of comes to a head when you walk into a neighborhood community center, maybe a community meeting, and you have to kind of express that. So I need more data. I need data that really says why downtown Orlando is an economic engine. It's a very powerful economic engine, and we need to continue to sell why that engine is important to the other citizens of Orlando. So I agree with everybody just a little bit. So we need some more work. I think this is a good presentation. I appreciate it, but I think there's some things that are missing here, which is kind of more candid conversation about some of the things that we perceive that's going on, and see how that responds in the best way of the community. I think we're doing a great job with events. I think we're attracting people down. I am concerned that they don't come back. They come to an event, but they don't come back.
Sure.
And that's the area of our nightlife, restaurants. Those are kind of things I think that concern me. I'd like to have a kind of a frank conversation about that. Not here, but in my office, if you will.
Okay.
And let's look at the data. And are we tracking it? Are we making success? Are we seeing the number of calls are down? I mean, those are the kind of things I think that we can turn around to our community and go, it's powerful, and we're successful because of it. Okay, does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir. Certainly the ambassador.
I'd like to see that, and you and I talked about the ambassadors when we started it, and we were going to get data 6 months later. We were going to get data 6 months later. What's it telling us?
All right.
So.
We'll get on your calendar. We'll be happy to share the data with you, Commissioner. We're happy to do that. As far as the economic impact of particularly our nighttime economy, we don't have that data in an organized fashion. One of the things that
I agree. That's a good idea.
That's something yet that we probably need to do, and we'll be probably bringing a recommendation to the council at the appropriate time about such an economic impact study for downtown. We're seeing other downtowns do that. They use it, of course, to justify, if you will, the expenses there.
I agree with that. And I think the idea of the study is a great idea, and we don't quite know how to do it. Nobody quite knows how to do it. We got to figure that out. I understand all that, and that makes a lot of sense. But we do have some data.
Sure.
And we can look at the tracking of some of that information, see how that's impacted.
We'll get with you and we'll satisfy everything that you're asking for.
Yeah. And I think that, Commissioner Gray's a little bit right, given the opportunity for our police to do off-duty work. They don't choose downtown. Now, that may be because other events are a little easier to do.
Well, if I may, one of the reasons they don't choose downtown, they are choosing downtown, but we do have off-duty cops working every night. But one of the reasons they don't choose downtown as readily is because you can work at Disney for $30 an hour more than you can work off-duty in downtown. So there's a better option that they're taking. But we do have sufficient numbers of off-duty officers responding to the needs in downtown.
A lot of times it's the underlying data that we need to look at. A good example is that we had an issue just last summer with getting lifeguards. Okay, not a big deal, but nobody anticipated that Universal was going to open up Volcano. And when they did, they paid a higher rate to kids that we were hiring, and all of a sudden, we were in reacting mode.
Sure.
And it had nothing to do with our ability to get people on and train them. It had to do with some outside influence that impacted us. So I think the same kind of thing applies here. What are the outside things that influence us, and how do we get better at it? But I'm so thrilled with where we're going. I've only been in downtown Orlando for 65 years, so I see these trends go back and forth. And the hardest trend we have to move forward on is, what do you do about bringing retail? And I think Commissioner Gray is on the right track. We need to kind of look at retail differently and look at corporate. What are we doing about bringing corporate down here, and what attracts them? And I think you've got a good resource of people on this dais that want that to happen. Sure. So I'm thrilled with where we're going,
right.
and my eyes are open to know that there's a great possibility, and we have to address some issues to make sure that people want to come downtown at all hours of the day. All right. Mayor, thank you for letting me take your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Just 3 final points without starting further discussion. We're a little unique. We haven't mentioned this, but we don't have, if you go to any major downtown, what do you see? The tallest buildings generally, hotels. And Vegas and Orlando are the only 2 cities in America where the vast majority of the hotels are not in the downtown area, and we're trying to remedy that. But you don't have that visiting population that is staying in your city like so many other cities would have. And in fact, we were worse off before we incentivized the Boheme downtown before I got here. Secondly, Commissioner, I remember 5 years ago, we had a pretty wealthy population in the southeast, but everybody out there was complaining there were no restaurants in Lake Nona, the southeast. So it's not a unlike principle that until you get the population there, you're not going to get all that right. Now you got, I don't know, a handful of pretty decent restaurants out that way.
That's because our community has worked really hard to get those and to get the attention and cleaning up the corridor. But what I'm saying, Mayor, and I don't mean to be controversial, but is because our community has come together, District 2 community has come together and worked hard for what we have obtained. We don't have the same support that downtown has here from the staff here in the city of Orlando. We cannot just turn around and get the same, it takes us longer, and it takes us longer to plan anything. And that's my concern. I mean, we need to do the same thing for everybody. There's 6 districts. And I love what's going on downtown. I'm not criticizing downtown. I've always voted for everything that's going on. I just want the same level of attention.
It was a different point that I was making, but that's fine. And then the last thing, if we were going to rewind the tape 10 years or 12 years, think about what downtown was 10 years ago or 15 years ago, where we are today. I'd say that we've made as much progress as any community in the country in a decade and a half. So I'll close with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stand adjourned.
Good job.
Okay, you guys want to do agenda?